As we move forward to the next portion of our event, we're going to learn from Doug Gruber, who I mentioned earlier is one of our senior solutions engineers. He leads a lot of our financial services conversations, and really he's a real passionate individual when you talk about leveraging no-code technologies to really accelerate customer onboarding. Right early in this process, we talked about the importance of capturing those micro moments as individuals interact with your bank and making sure that the customer experience is streamlined. And I think this is going to be a great session. Doug, are you on the line? Doug, welcome.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir.
Right. Welcome everybody to an actual live presentation of the product today. I know you've seen a lot of very interesting presentations and stats and some discussions about what's going on in the market. But now we're actually going to look at the product and a little more action oriented. So what you're looking at right now is our onboarding screen. And so if you look over here on the left-hand side, we have a series of sections, we call them, which are parts of an application. And I'm actually logged on as a branch manager right now, and I'm looking at the branch manager section. The focus for today's demonstration is corporate onboarding, and so I've selected the onboarding section. So what you're looking at in terms of a dashboard is a sample of some of the analytics that we can pull from the system in regards to the performance around onboarding. So for example, the average time to onboard a corporate account, the number of onboardings per month over the last year, where they're at in terms of the stage of the process. And we're going to talk quite a bit about the stages of the process. The active onboardings that are assigned to me in my branch, and the number of onboardings per month by owners. So the owners would be other branch employees that are working with corporate accounts as well. So these metrics that you see here are very easily configured in a no-code way. The theme of today, of course, is no code. So you can literally go in and answer a few questions and build out these really cool looking dashboards. So let's move on though to actually talking about the onboarding process. So what I have now, I clicked on this list icon here, and I have a list of existing onboarding applications that are going on at this point at this branch. I can actually look at a filter here and show folders. And these folders can be dynamic in that they can say, I want to see all the ones that are in document verification, for example. And as I click on that folder, I see the list of applications for onboarding that are in that particular stage of the process. These folders are really easy to create. You're just selecting what column or piece of data that you want to have the folder based on, and then you can create them in any sequence. And so you can also do things by time instead of status. You want pretty much any data field that you have in as part of onboarding could be included. So let's move into an actual onboarding plan. As we see here, here's one called Factorial Services Onboarding. So as I click on that, I'm actually presented with the details around this particular onboarding. And so let me just orient you a little bit to the screen here. Over here on the left-hand side, we have a list of fields and information related to who is owning different parts of this onboarding. So John Best here is the overall owner, but you can see for the e-channels group, we have Caleb Jones. For account services, we have Brenda Lynn. And for fund transfer, we have Dietar. And IT is Simon Clark. So we have the ability to assign different parts of the onboarding plan to different people. As such, they would get activities to complete assigned to them as it moves through the process that they can complete. And everything they do, of course, is recorded as part of the audit trail and timeline in the backend system. As you look towards the top here, we see these chevrons across the top of the screen. These are what we call the dynamic case management component of the onboarding. So I'm going to show you in a little while how you define these and create them and modify them. You can see this particular application right now is in the select services part of the process. And you can see I have a task assigned to myself here, and it's required. It has a little asterisk. And so I'm supposed to select the services that we're going to be providing this corporate customer. So let's go down to the details of the onboarding plan, and we're going to see that some of these services are right here. We have documents. This is a list of documents that we're going to be collecting throughout the process. The services, activities are related to the tasks that need to be completed. Some of them have due dates a little bit farther in the future, and some of them have, of course, not been started yet. And we also are able to keep track of any emails that have gone between us as a bank and the corporate account that we're onboarding. All this is important to be able to keep everything that we know about the customer. That 360-degree view about the customer is always in front of us. So if we want to add some potentially new services that this corporation is interested in, all we need to do is click on the plus sign here, and we're able to get a list of services that they might be interested in. So for today, I'm going to select detailed statements. By the way, that list that you saw there of services is completely configurable via no code. And we're going to say they're interested in that and click Save. Now, when we do that, we go back here to the services area, and you'll see that now we have this item listed as something that they're interested in, and we'll continue to pursue that. So as we move on through this particular demonstration, I'm going to complete this task. And as I do that, it's going to ask me what was the status. We completed it. I might enter some details about entered a new service and save that. And again, that's being kept track of along the audit trail part of the system. We also then, as soon as we completed that, you'll notice that we moved on to the documents verification section here of this case. And so now I have new tasks that are coming up for me that need to be completed. All along the way, if we look at the timeline, we'll see that these tasks are being completed, when they completed, and who completed them. So again, tying it all together in terms of making sure we have the story for how this onboarding plan happened and all the events around it. Now, what about there are certain tasks that might occur that are more ad hoc? Well, we don't have everything locked down in terms of being able to do more ad hoc things. So, for example, perhaps you want to be able to just create a task on the fly because certain events have occurred and you need to create a new task to be completed in here. So maybe we need to verify some tax documents or something like that. So I can come in and ad hocly select who this could be assigned to, a particular role or group. And of course, it's going to automatically save it as connected to this particular onboarding plan. So you can see now it shows up in here that we now have an additional task to complete. Well, there's other sorts of things you can do in here as well. Perhaps I want to record the fact that I had a phone call with them, and we want that as part of the record as well. So I'm going to search for a contact here that's in factorial services. This is going to be an outgoing call. And perhaps what we want to do here is say that, we want to follow up in that conversation on the phone. We follow up on XID numbers. Okay. And we're going to save that. Now that is part of the timeline that we'll be able to keep track of the fact that we did make that call. Maybe we want to do an email to them. So we can do emails from right within the system instead of jumping out and going someplace else to send the email. The advantage, of course, is that we're going to keep track of that email tied to this onboarding plan, and we can go back in time and see what we may have sent them. So we can send it to someone, you can select who it's from, the subject, you can type in, obviously you have the ability to type in anything you want from an email standpoint. You may also want to attach a file or actually select from an existing email template. Maybe it's important that the email you're sending is not, just completely ad hoc. You might have some legal language or something you need to include in this particular email when you're sending to a customer. So all those capabilities in the action bar here are available that are going to be more ad hoc, but they're going to be a part of the process and being kept as part of the audit trail. So this is really, very flexible in terms of configuration. But you're probably saying to yourself, well, what if this is not my process? What if I have a different onboarding process? How easy is this to configure? And this is where we're going to start talking about the no-code parts. So I actually have, if I click over here in this other tab in my browser, that particular case that we were talking about. Remember, we selected the services and now we're in documents verification. So I can name these anything I want. You can see it, this turned to a plus sign when I hovered over it here. I can add new steps in the onboarding plan. I can actually have any task that I want associated with any step in the onboarding plan. You recall this was the complete services task that we completed. Well, what if I want to do other things? So I can actually add at any point in time additional steps. Now we talked, throughout the seminar today about, citizen developers and who can do this. I want to make sure for those that are concerned about who's allowed to do these things, these activities in terms of modifying the processes and such. That's again based on your role in the organization. And so you can set up access rights for certain individuals that are allowed to make modifications to your processes. You certainly wouldn't give it to everyone. But let's take a look at some of the things you can do here. You can add an approval at this stage in the process. You can add tasks, you can make an email sent automatically. You can call a process actually as well. And that's the next area we're going to go to in a second, where you can actually execute a structured process based on our BPM engine platform. So it's really easy to modify these and configure them. And you can see as we go along, you can have color coding for these examples as well. And, if I click on the particular item, the wizard over here on the right-hand side comes up where you can configure it without doing any coding. Okay, let's move on to a more structured process. So behind this onboarding plan, in addition to this dynamic kind of case capability, you might have structured processes that get kicked off every once in a while. And so, for example, sending notification, a particular kind of notification, whether it's an email or even a message. We do support things such as text messaging and chats and stuff like that as well. So I'm going to click on this next tab here. And what you're seeing now is our BPM modeling tool allows us to model any structured process. And you can see it's very graphical. The ability to add something new to the process is here as well. So you can see here's a number of the out-of-box different types of things you could add to a process. And it's really easy to, add it to the diagram. You just drag and drop it over here. And then you can do the setup wheel to see additional tasks that you can chain together here. If I double click it on the right-hand side, you'll be able to use the configuration wizard to go ahead and do the configuration of the actual steps inside that particular stage of the process. So perhaps you want to modify some data in the system. Perhaps you want, as we said, you might want to have a different one where we're going to call a web service, for example. So being able to interact with external systems is very important, of course. You might have a number of different of course, back-end systems in the banking part of your organization where they need to communicate with Creatio. And so not only can we call them, but those systems can also call us as a web service as well. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today. Just give you a feel for how you can use the Creatio no-code platform to do your banking onboarding, as well as some of the aspects of how you configure it. So I'm going to stop sharing there, Tom, and we'll come back here.